July 28th, Planning and Zoning regular meeting to order. This meeting is being held in person as well as via Zoom. So dial in is 719-359-4580, ID 863-8055-0264. And I think, should I seek alternate Frail first before the roll call? Okay, I'll take a motion to seek alternate Frail for this group tonight. Commissioner Houghton?
I move.
That's what it's, sorry.
Move to seat Jim Frail as a alternate to P and Z mission.
Okay. Commissioner Jones?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's just do a hand vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, welcome, Jim.
Sure.
Okay, let's do the roll call.
All right, roll call. Kyle Jones, Patrick Corcoran, and Amy Connerton, not present. Patrick Waller,
Peter Waller, that's my son.
Peter Waller. I went to school with his son. That's why.
Oh, did you? There you go.
Oh. John Houghton, Connie Guyman, Jim Frail.
Okay, we have a quorum. Okay, the minutes are going to be delayed as the month was typed in incorrectly, so we'll review the minutes at the next meeting for the June meeting. Okay, comments from citizens appearing for items not on the agenda. Okay, we'll move on. Okay, the first item is so we're planning and zoning, but we also act as the Building Board of Appeals. So this is a Building Board of Appeals item. So it's an appeal 0000672026 on 506 Maple. Trent?
Good evening, Planning and Zoning Commissioners, or right now acting as the Building Board of Appeals. I'm Trent Hyatt, the Community Development Director, here in place of Emery Ellingson tonight, presenting case VAR 56-2026. It's a, I'm sorry, I've got the wrong one here. I apologize. Let me change this. No, I'm presenting appeal 67-2026 related to 506 Maple Street. And tonight, your consideration is the building official's interpretation of Chapter 903.2.8 of the International Building Code, adopted as the 2021 edition, that a Group R1 occupancy requires an automatic fire sprinkler system. With appeals, staff does not provide you a recommendation. It's the applicant's job to present to you evidence as to why the building official's interpretation of the code was incorrect. Per 70-60-70 C3 C2, we would only include the necessary facts to warrant an appeal, which will be provided mostly by the applicant. Your code administration, the code allows for the Building Board of Appeals to hear and decide appeals based on decisions or determinations made by the building official relative to the application, the specific interpretation of the code at hand. The appeal process is a mechanism for those applicants to relieve or to seek administrative relief from our building official's interpretation of the code. You are the appellate body for any interpretations by the building official. If your decision were to be appealed, it would be appealed to City Council, and then any decision of City Council that is appealed would be in district court in accordance with state law. You are governed by the officially adopted building code, which is the IBC in this instance, 2021 version, as I mentioned. And your decision is to whether or not the building official interpreted the provisions of the building code or that they do not apply to the specific case that's being proposed. Your options are to affirm the decision of the building official, to reverse the decision of the building official, or continue the application for additional information from the applicant. At this time, I'll turn it over to the applicant, Susan Wilmot, or the owner, or her daughter, Rebecca, who's here.
And could you please state your name and
Yes, hello. My name is Susan Wilmot. This is my daughter, Rebecca Blodgett. And I'll wait for her to continue. You wanted the card? No, here.
I can-
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank each of the board members this evening for your service to our community. I know it's voluntary, and thank you very much for your time and attention to this matter on our behalf this evening. I just want to give a brief history of who we are. I purchased 506 Maple Street in 1998. With the express purpose of creating a spa that was dedicated to healing and wellness. And my vision was to provide both local residents and visitors a chance to receive exceptional massage therapy and related healing modalities. This would include Watsu, which is an exquisite aquatic therapy that was unique to the area and only offered by Splendor Mountain Spa. So back in 1998, when I purchased the property, I hired Howie Rayleigh, who was a friend of the family. He had just graduated from Colorado University as an architect. And he was also willing to do the building, not just the designing. And so together, we formed a plan and we transformed a very rough outbuilding into a really beautiful and welcoming studio for the healing arts. And for the next 27 years, I was privileged to practice in that space. And Watsu became our signature service, and it set our spa apart from all the others in this region. Eventually, however, my therapy pool reached the end of its useful life. Replacing the equipment was going to require way too much money. And after nearly 3 decades of practice, it was time to put me out to pasture, you know, a little long in the tooth there. And so I was ready to move on with my life. And we had to decide, what should we do with this wonderful cottage that had served our business for so long? And it just seemed the natural evolution was to become a stay spa. We could transform this cottage into a very nice, comfortable place for our clients to stay while they're here in Glenwood Springs. It's a wonderful location. It's 1 block from the hot springs pool. It's right by the pedestrian bridge. It just seemed ideally suited for this purpose. And again, it's a niche for us. There's no other spa in the area that provides housing for their guests. So you get a massage and it's just a short walk to your bedroom. It just seemed like a perfect fit for us. So we're here tonight to respectfully request that we're asking for an appeal from the requirement to install an automatic fire sprinkler system to our existing 400 square foot detached guest cottage.
We tried to comply with this requirement. We contacted both plumbing and fire sprinkler contractors to see if we could get the system installed. The existing water pressure is adequate, but unfortunately our our piping is too small. We also tried to see if we could do a storage tank option, but the cottage has neither an attic nor a crawl space, so a storage tank is not a feasible option. The only remaining option is to excavate and replace the entire water service from the street at an estimated cost of over $60,000. For our small family business, that represents a major infrastructure project that we simply cannot undertake. That's why we're here tonight, after exploring every practical alternative, to respectfully ask the board to consider the consideration and the unique circumstances of this existing 400 square foot building. While we agree that fire safety is the utmost importance, if we believed this building posed an unreasonable risk to our guests, we would not be asking for this appeal. To help ensure guest safety, we've implemented several important life safety measures. The cottage has a combination fire or smoke detector and carbon monoxide detector, 2 wall-mounted fire extinguishers located in different areas of the building, and we would happily install more if needed. After the installation of our code-compliant egress window next week, we will have 2 means of exits on opposite sides of the building. It will only have a max occupancy of 4 guests with no smoking allowed. This is a very small, detached 400 square foot building surrounded by an alley, 2 parking spaces, and a concrete patio. We respectfully ask that the commission to consider those unique characteristics together with the life safety measures we've already implemented and the efforts we've made to comply as you evaluate our request.
And I would just like to add, that Glenwood Springs really is, it's a remarkable place to live. It's a remarkable place to visit. We're blessed with 2 world-class hot springs resorts. We have 2 beautiful rivers joining together here, and we're surrounded by extraordinarily beautiful natural beauty. Also, what makes Glenwood Springs unique and what I treasure just as much is how the restaurants, the shops, the boutiques, the galleries, many businesses, including our spa, were all locally owned and family operated. And this is what makes Glenwood Springs feel authentic to people. We offer a personal level of care and quality that can't be replicated by large corporate chains. But the challenges facing small businesses today are very significant. We've had to adapt, evolve, invest in our property, and now we need your approval to continue. So this appeal is about more than one small building. It's about preserving a small family business that's been part of Glenwood Springs for nearly 3 decades. It's about allowing our responsible local businesses to evolve so that we can survive. We respectfully ask for your approval so that we can continue welcoming guests, serving our community, and contributing to the unique character that makes Glenwood Springs such a special place. So again, thank you for your time, your thoughtful consideration, and your service to our community.
Okay, thank you very much. If you don't mind, Stan, we'll have questions for you from the commission, or from the, I guess we're the Board of Appeals. So from the Board of Appeals. Questions? Well, I have some questions. So yeah, we hadn't seen this before. So thank you very much for,
Being that late to you.
yeah, I mean, for me, it was good to see the floor plan or the site plan and how you're, you know, how this
The property is
um,
laid out.
guest cottage is on here too. So the guest cottage is separate. It's two separate buildings?
Correct,
Are both buildings standalone buildings?
correct.
Okay, and one question I have on was we had heard too that the square footage is, I saw 400 square foot in your presentation and the staff had said a little over 500 square foot.
It's 20 by 20.
It's 20 by 20, it's exactly 400. Okay. Um, And the entrances then are the front and the rear. Is there, I saw something in part of the package that talked about putting kitchen equipment or anything in there or what, so what all is inside?
But currently, we had found out that if we had wanted to turn the back building into an ADU, the fire sprinkler requirement would be forgiven. But in order to do that, we would have to install a permanent cooking structure, which we just would really rather not do, because the space itself is so much better for a short-term rental. It's a very small space. There's no storage. There's no place to even put a bookshelf. So it's not a very good place for someone to live, which is why we don't have a cooking apparatus in there.
So it's basically a studio.
It's basically a studio.
Okay. And then I can see on this floor plan, the entrances are basically the front and the rear and there's like a sitting area and,
Correct. There's a little city area with a futon that they could pull out for two people to sleep, and then one bed for a queen bed, a bathroom, and then a little area like a kitchenette with a table, a microwave, a sink, and a place to make coffee.
okay. Yeah, and then I think you did a good job for me explaining it's 4 guest max and I'm assuming that it's that it's a gas heat because you have a carbon monoxide.
That's true. There's a gas furnace.
It's a gas furnace. Yeah.
Yes.
Fire extinguishers. So I guess a question I kind of have for staff here is that, so if we have some questions on code or that sort of thing, which is maybe beyond these guys' purview, how does that play into the agenda here, into the process here?
We can certainly provide background on how we came to the decision that is the part of the appeal tonight. It's not the decision that is in front of you as it specifically requests to the applicable code requirement, but happy to provide some background.
Okay. Should these guys stay up while we ask those questions to be part of that, or should we kind of roll through it and then they can come back and we have a discussion again?
I think you can, if you want to pull other people up to ask questions regarding the background on the code section or anything like that, I think that's fine. And then give the applicants an opportunity to respond to that.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Houghton?
Is what's labeled the main spa building on the site plan, is the use of that building only a spa, or is it a home occupancy or?
It's both.
Yeah, I live there. I have a bedroom in
Okay.
that building, the main home.
Yeah.
On the property.
Thank you.
That's a good question. Other questions for the applicant? Okay. Commissioner Guyman?
So what options were you given as far as R1, residential group R1, ADU, short-term rental? What were the options that you were given to?
They said because we wanted to do it as a short-term rental, the building is automatically classified into the R1 occupancy, which is where the fire sprinkler code comes into effect. We're just asking the board to see if the requirement is actually proportionate to the building that is here in front of you as being only 400 square feet and brick construction. It's the fire danger for the building is, I believe, low on the lower end. as it's not there's not a full hotel, which R1 occupancies are designed to protect and help with. And this is not necessarily where I feel like we fall into, but because we would like to do it as short-term rental, that's where we fall into.
Okay, I have another question too. I saw in the staff report that there were several other items when the building official, planning, and fire department came out and did the inspection of your unit. And so it sounds like all of the other issues are not an issue. The only thing that is an issue is the fire sprinklers, is that
That's
correct?
correct. Yes, we've
That's
got, the egress window is going in next week. It's already been ordered. It's special custom made to fit into the space that we have for it, and that will be installed next week. All the other things that they had requested of us were very minimal, small things to do around there, caulking and a few other things that we have already taken care of.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, looks like there's no more questions for you guys at this time. So what we'll do is we'll have questions of staff, and then you can come up again and we can have more conversation on that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Questions for staff? Commissioner Farrell?
Mr. Hyatt, is this building inspector's report or experience different than what he had performed on this site? In other words, in Glenwood Springs, is it unusual to have this type of a decision to require sprinklers in a unit?
You know, I'll let the building inspector, Victor Mraz, speak for himself. He's here, but for this occupancy type, no, fire sprinkler systems are not. I do want to just clarify, and you know, obviously love the business, and we've tried to work with Ms. Wilmot and Rebecca as much as possible to date to try to figure out how we can accommodate this use and her operation in the city. It's a pretty open-ended zone district in which the property is located, and it allows for a lot of different uses. The difficulty here is that we cannot categorize this in terms of zoning, and let's make sure that we have these two things separate, right? We're talking about Title 060, which is the applicable building code requirements, and we're talking about Title 070 of the code, which is zoning and dimensional requirements. You know, it would allow for a business, a spa. However, the short-term rental, you know, and she wants to short-term rent this space. We cannot call this a short-term rental in terms of the development code, because short-term rentals are limited to one within every 250 feet. It falls within the buffer of another short-term rental in the Maple Street neighborhood. We can't call this an accessory dwelling unit. Accessory dwelling units are accessory to a single family home. While there is a home on this lot, there's also a business being operated here. So this is a mixed use situation. So the only way that we could accommodate the use of this building in terms of zoning would be that this is a lodging unit within that zone. Well, in order for that to be a lodging unit, it has to meet the applicable building code occupancy requirements of R1, which do require a fire sprinkler. So it's a kind of a conversation of, you know, is it this or is it that? But we can't categorize it for something for zoning that allows the use, but then categorize it for something else in terms of the building code that's applicable to that type of use.
So I guess my question is that he's familiar with this type of inspection and report.
Yes, most certainly, as well as our fire marshal, Robin Pitt, who's also here.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Corcoran?
The lodging, is there any minimum square footages requirements is it just a blanket designation to the property?
I'm not aware of any minimum lodging requirements. There are certainly some in the residential code, but perhaps Victor can answer that better than I can.
No, they're not.
Could you please, Victor, coming up to the podium?
Hi, Victor Meraz, building official. What was the question again? Sorry.
I guess I'm just trying to understand could you build a lodge in Glenwood Springs for 300 square feet and it would still be a lodge? Is there so there's no square footage minimum,
no,
minimum,
anything-
maximum on this?
I'm sorry. Anything that's classified as an R, residential or R1, R2, or 3 or 4 has to be sprinkled. The only thing the city amendment was on the single home that will be more than 2,000 square feet, then it has to be sprinkled. But that the rest of it, has to be sprinkled.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Houghton.
What? And I apologize, this is gonna sound like a tangent, but what is the minimum for this to be considered attached? Would a breezeway make this attached?
The problem here is that the zoning doesn't allow for the rest of it. It has to be an R1 to make it an overnight stay there.
Would you
They
consider
can
a
do the business,
breezeway?
they can do the massage, and they continue with that the way it is. But if they're trying to change it to a overnight stay, that has to be changed.
I guess what I'm getting at is that an owner occupied house with rooms that's rented, a lodging house, is an R3,
Yes.
which if we're altering an R3 falls under the IRC, and alterations and additions don't need to be sprinklered. So
Yes, it has to. Anything classified as an R has to be sprinkled.
I guess, would you consider a breezeway connecting the two? Would that be one structure or two structures? I don't know if there's an analogous project that you can think of, like maybe a garage that's attached by a breezeway to a single family home. Is that one structure or two?
Well, I don't see anything about it, how can you do that with that? On this particular address?
Is the question or the intent of the question, John, to try to understand if this were connected to the house, would it then be more like an accessory tourist rental as a room being rented in the house, and would that be permissible?
Well, in R3, a transient lodging house with 5 or fewer guest rooms and 10 or fewer occupants, or an owner occupied house falls under the IRC, which is where our amendment about fire sprinklers lives.
So it's a question that's more potentially a solution to the problem.
I'm just asking questions.
I think the answer is yes.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, what would it take for these to be considered attached versus detached? And maybe that's something to be sorted out later.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I will note that, certainly that was one of the options that we provided to the applicant, was to simply have this lodging unit within the existing home. However, I don't think that functioned well with their operation and their living situation.
And then are there any square footage thresholds, like amendments to the IFC likely, where sprinklers are exempt in Glenwood?
Didn't see anything of, any type of limits on square footage on the code, so.
2,000 square
Other-
feet.
Yeah, no, for
R3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a single home, it's at 2,000 square feet. Less than 2,000 square feet, you don't need to sprinkle it on a new home.
I believe that's what we amended it to. It was a blanket requirement.
Another great question. I think, we would certainly have to analyze the existing structure too, and then what the occupancy of that was.
Yeah.
And that determination, but great question.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Corcoran.
Oh, no, I don't have a question. I'm sorry.
Okay, Commissioner Guyman.
I thought we had discussed months ago about waiving the sprinkler requirement and ADUs as well.
That was when you're building a new ADU.
Uh-huh.
We were requiring to get sprinkled. That's when the code would change again. That's when we adopted that only 2,000 square foot and up, it's gonna get sprinkled.
Okay.
But none, if you're building an ADU next to your house, you don't need to sprinkle it.
So,
Ms.
so is it less safe to have an ADU that's less than 400 square feet without a sprinkler than having a transitional lodging unit that's 400 square feet?
It's not less safe. I mean,
More,
it
more.
it
is
should
equally-
be everything,
It would
but
be equally safe.
we changed it.
Right?
I mean, you changed it, so.
Okay.
Commissioner Guyman, to answer your question, we have discussed the possibility of just limiting ADUs from the sprinkler requirement altogether. That has not been codified. We still would allow for an ADU to not be sprinklered if it was part of a structure that was still less than 2,000 square feet under the current code.
Mhm.
I also want to clarify, this is not an accessory dwelling unit. And we
But it's-
can't classify this as an accessory dwelling unit under the zoning of the property.
I understand that, but it's a building that has people sleeping in it. And I understand there's zoning and non-zoning. I get that, like the zones of them. But I'm just thinking as like, in a logical way. A building in the town of Glen, or city of Glenwood either needs a sprinkler or it doesn't need a sprinkler. Seems odd to me that just because you're classifying it as one thing, that it would. I mean, either needs a sprinkler or it doesn't.
Yeah, I think the difficulty there is there are a lot of things like that underneath the code and frankly underneath the I codes in particular. And when we start doing local amendments like we have, underneath the version of those codes that they would suggest you adopted, everything would be sprinklered.
Yes.
And so it is a local amendment that exempted some things. It was not a recommendation of the International Building Code Council that certain things shouldn't be sprinkled or certain things should be. They would like everything that has a human being in it to be sprinkled. So that's where it gets a little odd when you guys start tinkering with those things for good reasons, oftentimes for good political reasons, but it creates these areas where there are differences. The question tonight is, yes or no, does it fit into this classification, and does this classification require a sprinkler? Yes.
So could you, and I don't know who it is, but go through again and just explain the difference between, this being, I mean, it's not an ADU. In fact, the applicant even talked, we're not asking for an ADU, and that it's like a lodging unit. So it's like a commercial space. I mean, and that's the basic reason behind the code, is that, I mean, why the recommendation from the building official was that you need sprinklers. Is that, am I saying that correct?
I think the interpretation and application of the code by the building official
Yes.
was that it was required to be sprinkled. It's not a recommendation to you. That was.
Right. No, I understand that.
His interpretation of the code. So if yours is different, then you could find it not needing to be
Okay.
sprinkled.
So if we, and I don't know how everything else goes, but Commissioner Houghton talked about how do we make it be a single dwelling? And I mean, it sounded like if it was a single dwelling, then sprinklers would not.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably guide you guys away from trying to solve the problem. That's not the question in front of you, unfortunately. The question in front of you is it required to be sprinkled or not under the code and underneath the conditions today? And I know that feels different than what you do as a planning commission a lot of times, which is when you're trying to come up with solutions and you're spitballing up there because you have more flexibility. This is kind of a binary decision tonight. If the applicant wants to come back with a different formulation of the property, that would be a different issue.
Okay.
That's not your role tonight as the Board of Appeals.
Okay. So in the packet from staff, we saw the code. I mean, could we see the specific code for, I would like to see that says, here's where it's, what's required and why they're appealing what the decision that was made. Do you have a copy of that you could put up for us?
Yeah, and I
Right,
think that there's a summary of that table included on pages 3 and
Yeah,
4.
3 of the package.
But yeah, we've got the code book here too. We can mention it to you specifically. That's Victor, if you're looking 903.2.8.
Yes.
Yeah, I can pull it up here. Oh, sorry.
Doesn't show all the code sections.
We could pass the book around. It's
pass it.
actually not published. It's a copyrighted document and it.
My favorite part about the iCodes, so just.
Good evening, Board. Ron Page, Fire Marshal. One of the questions was where fire sprinklers exempt in the code. Really, if you look at the code and the intent of where sprinklers are, is to protect lives. So every residential property should have a sprinkler. I know we have some exemptions here in town. But if you look at the exemptions, it's like elevator rooms, machine rooms, closets, right? Not where people are resting their heads, and especially in a transient location, right? And we look at where we are in Glenwood. We do have other boutique hotels that are complying with this R1.
All that little fine print. No, I can, well, I guess my, so is it all of this, Victor?
No, this is the part, this is the interpretation of it. This is the part right here.
Okay.
That's the small print right here. The other one is the interpretation of that section of the book.
Okay. What do you say, John? On the cut, I mean, is it, I mean. Okay, we just got it. In any building, so yeah, so that's what the code says, so then it's an interpretation, is kind of what you said, yep. Okay, so while we're looking at that, I'm just gonna ask, are there any more questions of staff, and then we'll ask the applicant to come back up and see if they have any other further comments.
And public comment as well on this one,
Oh, we'll
please.
take public, okay. Any other questions of staff? We good? Connie?
What does it mean that it should be noted?
Hey, you should,
Does it?
What does it mean? It should be noted that buildings constructed under the IRC are not included in group art and would not therefore be subject to particular requirements. What does that mean?
International Residential Code is not for this type of occupancy. It's automatically bumped to the International Building Code. Again, we can't process this as a use that would be allowed under the IRC because a short-term rental nor an ADU are allowed in this circumstance.
Is this
So we
the
have
way-
to call it something
Is
else.
this the way to, for them not to have to have a short-term rental, but have a short-term rental? Is it gonna be advertised like on Airbnb, VRBO?
They use it as a lodging unit. Short-term rentals are for use with a single family home. There's a business that's operating in conjunction with this lodging unit.
Okay. Commissioner Farrell.
Mr. Hyatt, in the appeal criteria of the packet that were received, it said that we should be focused on the building official's interpretation of the code. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that's really what we're doing tonight?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna assume that we're done with staff right now, so we'll move on. Any question or any comments from anyone in the public on this? Could you please come forward and state your name?
Good evening. My name is Lori Maciag. I own 402, 404 Maple, which is a block away from this building. I'm actually the one that reported the illegal Airbnb. It was actually their dot was covering up my dot, and I wasn't, even though I'm in compliance, I was not getting reservations because mine couldn't be seen on the website. My understanding right now, this is a Group B property. It is essentially a garage. It was on Airbnb for months. Before I reported it, it was on Airbnb for months after I reported it and after they were notified. After that, the short-term aspect of it may have ceased. As of March, it was still publicized. I reported it in November of 25. I appreciate that they're trying to do the right thing right now, but they are trying to circumvent the short-term rental process. It was publicized as a short-term rental. It was used as a short-term rental, and it was taken away from those of us in the community who are doing the right thing. I have further learned that even though they knew that a overnight occupancy was not allowed, that they had a midterm rental in this facility until May. It is 1 degree of separation from the person who lived there. So I'm just very concerned about following procedure, complying with the rules and regulations of the city, and going forward. So I would like to see the full R1 rules complied with in this situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else from the public? Comment? Okay, we'll close the public part of the meeting. Does the applicant have any more comments they want to?
We did first try to turn this into a short-term rental for our business, and we didn't try to do it nefariously. We honestly thought that it was just an extension of our current business, another service that we offered to our guests. We got the letter from the city in January. I took it off Airbnb immediately in January as soon as I got that letter, and it came off of our website about a month and a half later. We haven't had any short-term renters in there. We haven't rented it to anybody since we've gotten the letter from the city telling us that we were not in compliance. I just wanted to stress that.
Okay. Any other comments? Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now I think we bring it back to the commission to discuss and by the Board of Appeals and discuss and how we want to go forward and handle this. Okay. Comments? Questions?
No comments.
Commissioner Houghton?
Make a motion.
Okay, make a motion.
I move to affirm the building for officials' interpretation Of the building code, this is an R1 occupancy and does require sprinklers.
Okay, do I have a second on that motion? Commissioner Corcoran?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to uphold what the building officials put forth. Comments? Questions?
I mean, I think ultimately it's important to remember that our authority is very narrow here, right? Either the code was interpreted correctly, it was not, or is or is not an equally good method of construction proposed. We don't have the authority to waive requirements. We don't have the authority to modify requirements. So I don't really see any other way to look at this, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. I think that was well said. Okay, no more comments. I guess it's so we can't vote like we normally would. So we'll go through, and why don't you run down the line and each of us will vote verbally.
All right. Kyle Jones. Corcoran. Waller.
So yay is affirming the appeal, the interpretation. Okay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Houghton.
Yay.
Guyman. Braille.
Yeah.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Victor. Thank you to the applicant and everyone else. Okay. That closes the Building Board of Appeals. Now we'll go back to planning and zoning. Okay, the next item on the agenda was the code amendment for the short-term rental. There's a request for continuance. I need to see a motion to agree with that or to accept that continuance to next meeting.
Yeah, and if you could specify the date, please, we're just trying to preserve the notice. And that would be to the August 25th, 2026 regular meeting.
Okay. Commissioner Howden?
I move we continue the code amendment CDA 000049-2026 to the regular meeting August 25th, 2026.
Okay, is there a second? Commissioner Corcoran?
I'll second that.
Okay, we'll just do a hand vote or verbal. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay.
Motion passes unanimously.
Passes. Excuse me? What? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, people know that they don't need to stay. Okay, we're moving on to the next item. The next item is planning item variance 56-2026, variance for 1108 Colorado Avenue. Trent?
Hey, good evening again, Commissioners. Trent Hyde standing in for Emery Ellenson, presenting case VAR 56-2026. This one is a variance application for 1108 Colorado Avenue. And it's consideration for relief from section 70-2060 and table 20.8 for an encroachment into the side yard setback, generally requiring 5 feet. Staff recommends approval with the findings and conditions outlined in the staff report. This property again is located at 1108 Colorado Avenue in the RM2 Residential Multifamily Limited Zone District between 11th and 12th, just west of Grand Avenue. Just to give you a little bit of background on this property, the applicant who you'll hear from later is a recent purchaser of this property. A couple pictures here of the question at hand. As you can see on the left-hand side there in August 2023, the applicant purchased the property with a deck that was failing there. It was kind of a safety issue at the time to remove that so it didn't fall and hurt someone. As it sits more recently here in September 2025, you can see they have done some repairs. They've recently requested a building permit from our department in order to improve that deck and bring it back to its former glory, which is the need for the variance. As you can see, the proposed improvements on the front or the west elevation show a deck that extends all the way to the north side of the property in line with the existing house that's located there. You can see another, the south elevation there, but then this would be the front elevation that kind of shows the location of the proposed encroachment to the setback. Generally, there's a 5-foot side yard setback required here, and the applicant is proposing to extend that porch back to its former location to allow for a 2-foot 3-inch side yard setback. One of the reasons why we're talking about this, and probably if we had known and the applicant would have known at the time, is that you're certainly allowed to make improvements to existing structures, right? To maintain those structures and keep them safe. However, the time had lapsed to greater than 12 months that took what was previously considered a legal non-conforming issue, and then now what we're proposing today, which would be a non-conforming to the setback, which is why there's a request and a need for a variance. Variance criteria outlined in the code. We'll go through some of these, but that's all 7 of them there. Criteria 1 is, does the property or the building or other exceptional site condition lead to a hardship for the applicant that's not similar throughout the district? While we certainly, a lot of the original town site was constructed prior to zoning regulations being applicable in the city, we do have some unusual building configurations on lots that are not necessarily centered on lots. We have many lots in the city where multiple lots were purchased, and the applicant would build a home right down the middle of those. So you'd have some right down the middle of property boundaries. So it's not, I would say, occurring on every single lot. So it's not happening throughout the district a ton, but it certainly is exceptional in this specific application here. Criteria 2 would not produce undue hardships, or that the code actually produces an undue hardship. And we think that the code in this situation does produce an undue hardship on the applicant. As you can see in this elevation there where my cursor is, there's an existing entrance into this residence right there. And basically, by adhering to the code today, it would mean that you would not be able to cover that front entryway, allowing all the elements to come in, which would be a very unreasonable situation, right? It also might cause some safety issues getting in and out of the house. And, the applicant did say, well, can we move this door? But the interior of the home also prevents them from being able to have a layout that would work with a revised door location. Did the applicant create the hardship themselves? No, they did not. Obviously, this house goes back prior to 1977, but there's a picture of this existing roof at that time, as well as in 2023 before the applicant owned it. So they did not produce this hardship. They kind of put themselves in an inconvenient situation with the removal of the porch previously. But again, if staff had known, we would have advised them to do that within a year period. If they had known, they would have certainly have moved forward with that replacement. 4, the variance requested does not harm the public, nor does it impair the intent or purposes of the code. Again, we don't feel that this impairs the intent of the code. The applicant proposes actually more fire resistant materials with the proposed addition than would have been required previously if they had done this, especially with the adoption of the new Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code. 5, it's not related to a financial burden. Again, this is not a financial related burden caused by the applicant or that's being requested. Actually, they're probably going to have to spend more money to comply with the code in this instance. But again, it does allow for the home to be more functional. 6, does the variance violate building or fire code requirements? It does not. Again, because of the closer proximity of this porch than 5 feet, they'll have a higher building and fire code resistant standard that's applied to the materials that are used for that portion of the porch. 7, it is the minimum variance that will afford relief. We believe that that is the case. The existing home encroaches into this same area, and the proposed porch addition will be in line with that existing home. Your options tonight are to approve this variance request, to deny the variance request, or to continue this to a future meeting with a request for additional information from staff. I know that the applicants are here along with their architect if you have any questions of them, but if you have any questions of staff, I'm happy to answer that this time.
Okay, thank you, Trent. Questions for Trent? Commissioner Howden?
Where does 12 months live in the code? Is that just
Section 7010 would be
'Cause I was-
the non-conforming use section of the code.
just trying to figure out why we were here.
Um,
Generally speaking, if something was part of a repair, so the foundation wall had to be repaired, porch had to be removed to do that, you could put the porch back
Yes.
in one fell swoop.
Yes. And again, I think, if staff would have known that the applicant never intended to replace that porch, we would have advised them, hey, you need to make sure that you repair this unsafe condition within that 12-month period. We felt very silly making them go through this process, but I don't have the authority administratively to waive applicable requirements.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, thank you, Trent. Would the, oh. Sorry, Commissioner Farrell.
Is the building to the north also within that 5-foot setback?
I'm not certain exactly its proximity, but that was a additional concern that staff had, right? Typically you have to maintain 10-foot separation between structures. Otherwise, that may impact the reconstruction of either lot, right? You may have less openings along a wall. You may have to use or upgrade the fire rating of that wall, which is another reason that we wanted to be able to have this in front of you, submit it for a public hearing, address, send notification to adjacent property owners so that if they did feel that it had a negative impact on them, that they could come and object to the request.
So then essentially, if there is less than the 5 foot from the property line to each building, 10-foot total, this is a narrower area. I don't think it's a gangway. I'm familiar with that house and that neighborhood, but it sounds like the building department has suggested safety issues in the material. Can't do anything about the space.
Yeah, this one's a little different because it's not a full wall. There's an opening already there, but we certainly have had that discussion and wanted to make sure the adjacent property owner could complain or object to the approval of this. And I don't think that there have been any issues there.
Thank you.
Any other commission or questions? Okay, thanks, Trent. Hey, would the applicant like to speak? Please state your name.
Brad Jordan, Jordan Architecture. Actually, it's kind of nice to be on this side of the table instead of on that side of the table. After sitting on the Board of Adjustment for the county for 35 years, I've finally retired. So here I am on this.
Thanks for your service, Brad.
Well, thank you guys for doing this. Thanks to Trent and Emery who helped us through this process. I believe there is a site plan in there that showed the dimension from our property line to the house to the north. And I think we still maintain that 10 feet of space for where we're putting our roof. I don't have it in front of me, but other than that, I think Trent did a very thorough presentation of what we're trying to do. We've provided the drawings of, the options, the alternate, which we don't think is a very favorable situation, not only for the door, but it also doesn't look very good, very non-symmetrical. And, we're trying to just spruce it up and bring back that Victorian charm for the downtown neighborhood. We also have the client here, the McCarrolls are here, and I believe they have a couple letters of support for our, what we're trying to do as well. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Houghton?
What's the minimum distance to the lot line
What is the minimum?
yeah, for the proposed deck?
What was that? 3 inches? 2 foot 3 inches, which is.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Guyman?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. If I can make it in the form of a question if I had to.
Okay.
But I have watched this house evolve because I live, you know, on the other side of Grand. And I remember this couple out there just working really hard with their own 2 hands, bringing that place back to life, and it looks gorgeous. And then a question.
Thank you. Yeah, we actually suggested that, you know, if we go forward with this variance, we would offer to use whatever fire resistant materials that are necessary and code compliant. So that was, you know, knowing what we were asking for, we knew that that was going to be part of the criteria for approval.
Yeah, we saw that several times in the.
Yeah.
So I guess for us, we're assuming that that's how it will be constructed. I mean, okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Jordan. Okay, any comments from the public? Okay, seeing that are none, I guess we'll bring this back for a motion to the commission. Okay, can people read that, or just should Trent need to put that back up?
It's like trying to find.
Yeah, why don't you put that back up there for us, Trent? Okay. Commissioner Jones.
Thank you. I move to approve planning file VAR 000056/2026 because the application meets the approval criteria for a variance with finding and conditions of the staff report.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Corcoran.
I'll second that.
Okay, and a second by Commissioner Corcoran. Any comments or questions or? Okay, let's call a vote.
Jones?
Yeah.
Corcoran?
Yay.
Waller?
Yay.
Houghton?
Yeah.
Guyman?
Yay.
Frail?
Yay.
Passes unanimously.
Okay, there you go. Thank you very much. All the best to the applicant in completing their project. It's all in there. Okay, ready to move to the next item, which is location and extent 76-2026. Review of 3500 Airport Road. Watkins?
Good evening, Council, Commission. How are you all doing tonight?
Good.
I've got a presentation for you that I am queuing up. Yeah. Okay. So this is a location and extent review for a project, the airport hangar and maintenance building relocation. My name is Watkins Fulgram, I'm a planner with the city, and I'm joined by our city engineer, Ryan Gordon, who you're going to hear from tonight as well. Also some friends from the airport. So before we get started on this location and extent review, what that means is a project, a development that is proposed by governmental entities. And in this case, the entity is ourselves, the city of Glenwood Springs. We are the applicants for this project. The project is for the relocation of 2 buildings that need to be done in order to accommodate the South Bridge project, which is a city project. We would be causing them to have to relocate these buildings. And so we are taking it upon ourselves to get them approved for relocation and then obviously to pay for that work to be done. So planning, zoning, or location and extent reviews are different from the normal kind of site architectural plan reviews that you all see often. They have different and more lenient criteria of approval. And you all, P&Z, are the deciding body for these kinds of projects. So the project that we're talking about is two buildings. One is a 10 airplane hangar, which is a 3-sided metal building, about 12,000 square feet. The plan for this one is to deconstruct it and then reconstruct it in a new location. With some minor improvements, we think that can be done. If we didn't do this, the building would be cut off from the rest of the airport and from the runway after Southbridge. So that obviously doesn't work because airplanes can't cross busy roads. The maintenance building involves a staff of mechanics, and they do routine maintenance on local and regional planes for the airport. It's a metal and canvas building that's fairly old, and it's not suitable for deconstruction. So the plan for this one would be to demolish it, build a new suitable building in a new location of around the same size or perhaps even a little bit smaller. So I'll show you some pictures, and then I'll show you the map of where these locations are that I'm talking about. This is the airplane hangar. As you can see, it's mostly open on 3 sides. You do have part of the, it's the east side that's enclosed. And this is the west side that is fully enclosed. This is the side that you see from Airport Road. And these are the 2 short sides of this metal building. Now we are looking at the proposed elevations of the new maintenance building. I know it's probably kind of hard to see what this, see detail, see what this looks like from the screen. But the reason for that is it's one material. It's a metal building is what we're talking about here. There's a door where there needs to be a door, but there's not a lot of architectural detail or articulation in these. These are the east and west faces. The one on the bottom is the west face, proposed west face. So that's the one that you would see from the airport roadside. And it has the big wide door for the airplanes. So that is the side that would have kind of the most visual interest of these 4 sides. Now the location then, so this is an aerial image. You've got north is up with your long runway. The circle in red at the bottom of your screen is the existing location of these 2 buildings. And then kind of roughly above that, about 700 feet or so to the north or northwest is the location of the new proposed buildings. This is a kind of a busier example from the airport's layout plan for their future development that shows the same thing, with north this time being on the left of the screen. So talking about the applicable code standards for new developments, this meets the height limits of the zone that it's in. We'll be adding sidewalks with the Southbridge project. This meets the setbacks, but this does not meet the design standards of our code. You saw the kind of blank metal elevations of these buildings. I'm going to show you some examples of how that doesn't meet our design standards. Other design standards that aren't applicable tonight are common open space and landscaping. And then other things like exterior lighting, we would look at building permit review and don't have any concerns with at this time in meeting that. So these aren't all of our residential design standards, but as examples, building elevations have to include 3 of the following of these 5 pointed lists. So as an example, glazed windows and doors need to comprise not less than 30% of the elevation of which they are a part. This is obviously not going to do that. It's a metal sided building, and it would be kind of silly, not really very functional if they did do this. So that's one example among many of how this is not going to meet our design standards in a lot of ways. This is just, it does not serve the same function. These buildings don't serve the same function as non-residential commercial buildings would that are in our core neighborhoods. So it's just a little bit different. But whether this project or not is consistent with the purpose and intent of the code, and by that we mean things like, does it promote orderly and efficient development? Does it promote compatibility with surrounding land uses? Does it prevent exposure to natural hazards or the regulation of impacts? We do think that this does meet the intent and purpose of the code, despite not meeting those design standards that I talked about. And here's just a picture of what the inside of an airplane maintenance building looks like if you're curious. We also want to look at whether this project is consistent with the comprehensive plan. So there are a few policies and goals that relate to this one. One specific goal is to maintain municipal airport, which we think this does do. It allows the airport to continue operating and perhaps function a little bit better with the location of these buildings. It does help to promote safe operations of the municipal airport. And then we also have some policies about transportation generally. This is about Southbridge. And so to kind of maintain our status, as being a leader in regional transportation, we want to, among other things, implement the Southbridge project. We want to complete critical street network connections, including the Southbridge project. A couple of examples, a couple of policies from the comprehensive plan that this does support because this is essential for the Southbridge project to happen. We have not received any public comment. And as far as comments from other reviewing agencies and other departments in the city, there's not really too much to say. You're going to hear from Ryan Gordon here in a minute. The building department is comfortable with not requiring fire sprinklers in the relocated airplane hangar. This is, again, open on 3 sides, and so fire sprinklers, would freeze. That's a big problem, and there's not storage of fuel, so we're comfortable with this not being required. Now, the criteria of approval that I mentioned are more lenient for location and extent reviews compared to other types of development you see. I am going to read all 3 of these to you. The project needs to be consistent with a comprehensive plan and other city plans and policies. It needs to be consistent with the general purpose and intent of this code. And I'll note that that's different from other site architectural plans that you might see where it is required that they be consistent with all of the standards of the code. And so what this says is the general purpose and intent. With that, we have some leniency for not meeting all of the design standards, as I've identified for you. The third criteria of approval is that it minimizes adverse impacts to the health, safety, and welfare of the inhabitants of the surrounding areas in the city. We think it does do that. So our recommended motion for you tonight is to approve with conditions the project with these findings here, which are the same findings that are in your staff report, with these 5 conditions of approval that are the same ones that are found in your staff report. I think I'll turn it over now to Ryan Gordon. And this is to fill in any gaps I have and maybe talk about some of the context of the project too.
Good evening, P&Z board. Ryan Gordon, city engineer. As Watkins says, this is a city project, so I'm essentially the applicant. Not a whole lot to add from what Watkins said. Generally, the purpose of this is to make the owners of the buildings whole. As Watkins stated, these would be impacted by Southbridge, therefore we're moving them. So there's a few other pieces of context into making them whole. One is that all existing utilities will be run to these buildings. So the airplane hangar, for example, has power. Power will be routed back to there, which may or may not include some outdoor lighting and some indoor inside lighting fixtures. The airplane hangar will have both water and gas and power. And then also what it doesn't have now, but city broadband will be provided to it if it wants. The current hangar has a septic system. We'll be designing and constructing one in very similar manner. And just a little context on the hangar, as Watkins mentioned, the plan is to deconstruct it and move it. The reason the way we came to that conclusion, we actually hired Glenwood Structural Engineering here in Glenwood to go and do a structural assessment of the building for a couple different reasons. One, is the building a candidate to be moved, or is it just simply rotted away? It's going to fall down when we take apart the bolts. 2, if we relocate it, could we do enough additional work to the building to bring it up to code? So both those answers were yes. So it doesn't make sense just to simply trash this building if it's still very structurally sound. That's the rationale how we got to where we are. The hangar and the maintenance building will both have engineered foundations. As Watkins mentioned, the maintenance building will have a sprinkler system inside as they are doing work on engines with flammable materials. But again, the hangar will not, as it just stores airplanes and it doesn't store actually fuel. Happy to answer some more questions, but I think that kind of fills out some of the details. And I'll turn it over to you guys.
Okay, thank you very much, Ryan. Okay, questions? Commissioner Frail.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask multiple questions?
You sure may.
Mr. Gordon, good evening. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, thank you. You said that there were no comments by anybody, so I'm assuming there's no noise impacts from Park East or Cardiff Glen.
Yeah, that's correct. Essentially, we're not changing the conditions, right? We're just moving the buildings. And so there has been no outside comments.
I'm not familiar with the airport's activities when when we have wildland fires, we have Forest Service or whoever comes and utilizes it. Is any of that space, has that been used in the past by helicopters or any of that?
So we do have members of the airport here, but I guess you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. The areas that we're moving the hangar and the maintenance shop from and to, or I guess to, is currently not used by anything. It's actually fill material. Whether thoughtfully or not, when our mudslides happened in Glenwood in 2023, we trucked a lot of that red dirt to the area that we are building these on. So right now it is essentially unusable area. So where the firefighting equipment happens when forest fires happen is on the runway and other areas. So this area currently right now is not usable for anything. I don't know if that addressed your question or not.
Yes, it does. Thank you. Are there, I think I had heard in the beginning in the introduction that we will pay for the utilities. Does that mean the city pays for all of the utilities to these buildings?
So what we're essentially doing is again, making them whole. So what the project will do or the city will pay for is the physical relocation or the construction of the buildings and then bringing the utilities and connecting them to the building. We're not going to be paying for the utilities, obviously, as they're utilizing gas or water, but essentially to make the buildings whole, we will be paying for, let's say, water to connect to the new building.
And is there any screening that goes along? I'm not familiar with what the road is called. Is that an extension of Midland or is that South Bridge Road or?
Well, it's always been known as Airport Road.
Airport Road.
And so the actual buildings are actually, there's not going to be any physical screening, but the road itself is above the buildings, maybe not to the tippy top of the eaves, but the buildings themselves are a little bit recessed down just from the natural topography of the area.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Frail. Other questions? Commissioner Guyman.
I am unfamiliar with the airport and who owns the airport. Is that a city of Glenwood property or is that a little primer would be nice.
Yeah, so the airport itself is owned by the city of Glenwood Springs. It is operated underneath a long-term lease. And I have to apologize, I can't remember the new. There, thank you. I can never keep it straight. Is the lease operator who operates all operations out there on the airport.
So it's owned by the city.
It is owned by the city. The other qualifier I'll have to say is that airports are a little unique in that there are a ton of ground leases. And so a lot of the vertical development on an airport and ours in particular is actually owned by private entities who built those facilities on city-owned property, but underneath long-term ground leases, which is part of the reason why the city is obligated to make people whole around those as this project moves forward.
I'll mention, if I may, to that question also, that these two buildings in question are privately owned. So not the land under them, like Carl just said, but the buildings themselves are privately owned.
And how much is it going to cost the city for this entire project?
So to move these buildings in particular, it's probably in the realm of $1 to $1.25 million.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? I have a couple of questions, and maybe they go off of Commissioner Frail's. So and I'm pretty familiar with this area up there. The one area that there's no landscaping or whatnot. I mean, that was the one thing you talked about, Watkins. And I guess a question I kind of have for the South, couple questions. One is, so is the reason this is being done is because of South Bridge?
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, the actual alignment of the road as we've slightly modified and changed the design. The actual road itself passes directly through the maintenance building, which is to the north, and then the hangar is to the south. So as Watkins mentioned, the hangar is physically bisected from the actual runway by our new road. So the project is impacting these buildings, and hence the reason we're coming to you
Okay.
to get them moved.
So is the timing, I mean, Southbridge is not approved yet, right? I mean, is that correct? I mean, we're,
Hey, yes, approved. Working through the final stages of crossing the T's, dotting the I's, for the final release of the $49 million, or 47 that we have left.
Yeah.
To be released, the first tranche of 2.5 million was released for, right-of-way acquisition. So it has not gone to bid, but the project itself has met all of its requirements.
so I guess what my question really is on the timing, do you wait till it's ready to go to bid, that everything's done? I'm assuming,
Yeah.
I did a lot of construction in my past and it's, it's not like a big project, right? There's a lot to be done, for $1.25 million. I'm not short-sighting that at all, but it's, for the size of the project of doing South Bridge, it's a small part of your whole schedule. I don't know if you know what I'm kind of getting at and asking of, when
Yeah.
is this done in the schedule of that project?
Yeah, right. So the way the timing is going to work out is, in direction from council, was proceed with the project. Let's get it out to bid. This is the Southbridge project entirely. See where the costs come in and then make a decision then moving forward. So our plan for these buildings will be, once council makes a final decision on Southbridge, either thumbs up or thumbs down, if they vote to proceed with Southbridge, then we will go ahead with the relocation
move
of these
this.
buildings.
Okay, cool.
And one thing that we've been very clear with the owners of the building, Hector Brown, who is the mechanic and the owner, is we're not going to knock the building down and then take our due diligence and time to erect it. It will be build the building such that they are not out of service at all. Obviously, the airplane mechanic is a vital aspect of the airport, and therefore can't be down. So we will, if it requires a slight delay in the Southbridge project to accommodate the airport buildings, then so be it.
Correct. Okay, well, yeah, I don't think they would be too happy if we did that. And then back to the screening thing. So, right now it's airport road's a very eclectic, not a nice looking place driving down there. I think my project kind of ended that area, but so is there plan to do any landscaping or anything? I don't know if this was what Commissioner Frail was getting at, and I think you probably don't want to have big trees sticking up for planes to hit or anything, but any kind of screening or anything once Southbridge, and there's more to it than just the airport, but.
Yeah, I can certainly speak to Southbridge in the project itself. It never was envisioned to have any landscaping, for a couple of reasons. One, wildfire risks. The other one is irrigation. Our plan is to keep it very rural and very native as it currently is. Certainly the area is industrial. And it's all zoned for industrial. So there's no, I'm probably speaking somewhat out of turn. I'm not sure if there's commercial out there, but the idea overall with Southbridge is to kind of keep it how it is. So an extension of that, let's say, would be lighting. Our lighting is going to be very rural in nature. Overhead Cobra lights will be spaced quite far apart and not lumped together. So again, we're kind of keeping the feeling of that area very similar, even though we are adding a roadway. As Watkins mentioned, we're adding a new sidewalk all the way from essentially the 4-mile roundabout, wrapping around Airport Road and crossing the river and then connecting to the Rio Grande Trail.
Oh,
So
okay.
again, we're trying to keep it as it currently sort of exists right now. But
and from a code perspective, landscaping is not required for this project because the amount of development, the floor area of these buildings is not changing. So it doesn't trigger the need for landscaping for the site.
Yeah, and my question was just really about screening or anything like that. So, okay. Thank you. Any other questions from? Okay, thank you very much. Is anyone here from the public?
Yes.
Okay, would you please come forward and state your name?
Hello, I'm Carol Parker. Thank you for having us. My husband and I, we live in the Park East community. So we, first and foremost, we love that this project, the idea of it is fantastic. We're new to the area. And so to have an additional bridge for safety, I'm always concerned with the traffic flow getting across 8th and 27th. So to have a third option is fantastic. So thank you for everyone that has worked on this project to this date and to continue forward. We have a couple concerns about, and these are just concerns, and I don't know if they've been talked about because we are going by the first letter that we received since we moved in October of last year. The letter stating or dated July 15th of 2026. This was the first notice that we've seen regarding any type of remodeling and that sort of thing for the project. Thank you for sending that out because it helps us seek to understand, right? The concerns I have also would be the city of Glenwood traffic, city vehicles that are traveling through Park East. If I'm looking at the map, just so I speak correctly, we are 7 houses from the roundabout in Park East, so we're very close to Airport Center Road. It happened today. We had 4 major trucks, and I am assuming that they're going to the gravel lot on Airport Center Road, come through Park East. I know that because they drove right by me, and those vehicles are quite large, and our area doesn't include large trucks to transport through our area. So my concern with the move of these buildings would be to help eliminate those vehicles coming through our neighborhood and have them travel down Airport Road. The second concern I have is how does this relocation impact the city gravel lot on Airport Center Road, which is the closest lot to our roundabout? So if you can take that into consideration. And with this project, and I'm sure you're talking to the HOA for our neighborhood, but we have a gate at that roundabout, and I would be concerned that that gate gets shut when the build of the bridge is made to help impact traffic coming through our neighborhood, specifically commuter traffic. And I just want to have that on the record that I would like to see if that gate could get closed. And then how does this relocation building of the 2 buildings, and will it include short-term, long-term living?
Excuse me just a second. So normally, I mean, we only have 1 person, so I'm fine with moving on a little bit. I mean, normally we have 3 minutes. So yeah, well,
Oh,
yeah,
that's what's going on.
that's what that is. But I think
No,
you're fine.
I just have one more thing.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
You're doing fine. Thank you very much.
So short-term, long-term living, because at the end of the hangars, it looks like that there's a trailer that somebody's living in. And then the last thing is just, again, thank you so much for your knowledge and your time putting into this project. And we look forward to having it come to fruition. And I'd encourage you all to drive down there. It's a unique area and we want to preserve that, but specifically for us as people that live in that neighborhood, we just want to make sure that that impact of traffic is limited. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Chairman, if I may, and I just want to point out that there are future development plans for the airport that the airport board will be working with the city on, and will be much more outreach to the neighborhood about larger plans, long-term plans. So while this is specific to just 1 maintenance shed and 1 hangar, as it relates to Southbridge, there will be discussions in the future on all of the details surrounding future development at the airport.
Okay. Any more comments from the public? Okay, we'll close that public part of the hearing. Any other comments from the applicant? Okay. Let's bring it back then to the commission for a motion. And Watkins, why don't you put the motion back up there so we can
No
do
problem.
better than we did. No, we did good last time. We did good. Oh, you have it this time?
I think so.
Okay, well then let's bring it to a motion. Okay, you prepared. Commissioner Jones.
Thank you. I would move to approve with conditions that this location and extent review with the findings and conditions outlined in the staff report. The findings being: 1, the proposal is consistent with the comprehensive plan and other city plans and policies. 2, the proposal is consistent with the general purpose and intent of the code. And 3, the proposal minimizes adverse impacts to the health, safety, and welfare of the inhabitants of the surrounding areas and the city. And do I need to read the suggested conditions as well?
You can say as written in the staff report if you'd like.
As written in the staff report.
Good job, Kyle. Okay, do we have a second? Commissioner Corcoran.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Jones, a second by Commissioner Corcoran. Okay, comments? Commissioner Frail.
Chairman Waller, I think you made it clear that they don't pull the trigger until the South Bridge is,
Yeah, and I think that's what we heard from Ryan
okay,
was that. Yep,
thank you.
good point. Commissioner Jones.
Yeah, I would just like to say, I think a lot of us are very enthusiastic about this project, and I just want to say thank you to all the airport representatives and private property owners there for working with the city on this, because it's a huge plan coming together here.
Commissioner Guyman.
I'd like to follow up with the public comments about access to the airport. I'm not familiar with the area, so I assume you could go in through Airport Road or you could go in through Park East. Is that correct?
To get into Park East from the airport there, as the member of the public was alluding to, there's kind of a gate that remains open that leads on to a roundabout.
Yeah.
So there is access from Airport Road.
Is there a way to limit the amount of construction trucks that are going to be working on this project from going through residential areas and keep them on Airport Road?
Yeah, let me address that, right? So right now at the end of Sky Ranch Drive, which is the road in and out of Park East, and as you get to the south, there is a gate that is open. Our plan for long-term is likely to close that gate to prevent people from jumping the queue, so to speak, and going through the neighborhood, obviously with the appropriate access for emergency vehicle and access. So during construction, the limits of the construction are at that gate. We're rebuilding all of Airport Center Drive. So at no point will any construction vehicles be allowed to go through the Park East neighborhood.
Okay.
Okay, other questions, comments? And yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with that area as well. I know I did a development right up there, and there's, Cardiff Glen, Cardiff Mesa, Park East is probably the most one that's traveled through. And I know that there's also groups that go through that aren't even the airport that go through that area as well. So I think a couple comments that I would just have, and I'm sure, Ryan, you're all over it, but is specific public outreach to the HOAs in those areas, because they are right there. I know there's a roundabout being put in right by, anyway, I know that there's a bunch of stuff going in, so I'm sure that there's specific outreach to those groups to hear what those people have to say, and that's different than what this thing is anyway, but okay, let's see. I think all my questions were answered before, but so any more comments?
I'd
Commissioner
like to
Frye?
echo Commissioner Jones. Congratulations on doing improvements to the airport. The airport's been a big issue for many, many years, but I'm not aware of a lot of things that have been done there that are improvements, and other than some private hangars, but kudos for all of your work.
Yep. Okay, I think let's call for the vote then.
Jones,
Yeah.
Corcoran, Waller,
Yay.
Houghton, Guyman, Frail. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Watkins. Thank you. Ryan, good luck, Ryan. We're pulling for you, buddy.
I just want to say, I think the city engineer's conflicted on the access through Park East since he's a resident of that neighborhood.
Oh, is that where you live?
Just kidding.
Stuff there, that stuff all over there. Okay. Okay. Nope. We're not done. Okay, commissioner comments. We'll just run down the line here, Kyle. I have nothing.
I just wanted to welcome.
Wait,
Commissioner
how
Frail.
did you?
I just wanted to welcome Commissioner Frail to the party.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you for the opportunity to work with you. Appreciate it, all of you.
Thank you very much. Okay, director comments.
Just a couple. Next month, we'll be back conversing about short-term rentals and some of that policy. Emery's been out getting married for a couple weeks, so we continue that tonight as requested. Do have one request. I think last month I told you we were having a little small subcommittee related to parking, specifically downtown, and a couple of you on that, Amy and John. I think we've got that meeting scheduled for next Wednesday afternoon. We have another little side quest subcommittee getting put together in regards to the confluence area and plan, and maybe suggesting to city council a couple options for moving forward with that plan or what should be done next, and looking to solicit maybe one volunteer for that group if someone's interested. Okay, we got you guys want a paper, rock, scissors, or
Chairman, can I just ask these guys?
Excuse me, excuse me.
Hey.
Could you guys take your conversation out? No problem. Oh, I don't know about that. Thank you very much.
we'll take both. How about we'll make sure we got at least one alternate at all times too. So that'll work. Thank you.
Okay.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we're